Thanks, Caroline. Two questions for you. The first on AI. Does President Trump support federal agencies contracting with Elon Musk's AI company?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so he would want the DOJ to then cancel the contract with Roth.
I'll talk to him about it, yes.
Donald Trump está peleando con todo el mundo, solo para poder distraer este escándalo con Jeffrey Epstein. El último intento, al parecer, le ha salido peor que ninguno anterior, el cual ya le está explotando en la cara. En esta ocasión, volvió a atacar a su viejo amigo y actual enemigo, el mismo que soltó la primera bomba sobre Epstein, el mismo que empezó toda esta narrativa del caso de Jeffrey Epstein, y se trata de Elon Musk, lanzándole una amenaza completamente absurda, luego de que Musk haya publicado una serie de mensajes sobre Epstein, los cuales están destrozando la narrativa de Trump. Y esto, señores, apenas empieza. Antes de que entremos a las amenazas de Trump contra Elon Musk por los posteos sobre Epstein, quiero comenzar con alguien que ha estado, digamos que desmantelando las cortinas de humo del trumpismo, y es ni más ni menos que Jessica Tarlov. Escuchemos.
I am excited for, if it happens, it'll be primetime entertainment, the cage match between Tulsi Gabbard and Marco Rubio, because Marco Rubio was the lead senator on the bipartisan Intel Committee, and their report found Moscow's intent was to harm the Clinton campaign, help the Trump campaign after Trump became the presumptive nominee, and undermine the U.S. democratic process. That is the same thing also that Tulsi Gabbard spoke to when she was on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2018. There's also video footage of Barack Obama himself saying it, saying that no machines were altered. They did not hack the infrastructure, but they tried to do an influence campaign, which we have all acknowledged. Sometimes I think, like, what day is it? What year is it?
Democrats?
What?
You said we've all acknowledged.
Well, Marco Rubio, I believe, is a Republican, and he's one of the more important ones. He has 85 roles in the administration, and he was the lead Republican who found that as well.
Y es que la simple idea de que Barack Obama o que Joe Biden intentaron robarle las elecciones a Donald Trump en el 2016 es algo absurdo. Y aún es más ridículo que Trump, que ya fue presidente, ya intentó empujar esta teoría durante años, y el veredicto final fue clarísimo: Donald Trump mintió. Pero insistir otra vez con esta historia es un papelón, especialmente cuando ni siquiera pueden cumplir con lo único que prometieron, y son los archivos de Epstein. Los tienen, pero no los quieren soltar. Ese encubrimiento es un problema gigante para Elon Musk, el cual ha publicado una ola de mensajes perturbadores, los cuales llevaron a una nueva amenaza directa de Trump. Primero veamos qué es lo que publicó Elon Musk. Es un encubrimiento. Elon inunda X con publicaciones atacando a Trump por el caso de Epstein. El magnate tecnológico Elon Musk, que hace unas semanas tuvo un cruce público con Trump tras renunciar como el jefe del Departamento de Eficiencia Gubernamental, llenó su red social de puras críticas en contra de Trump y el manejo del escándalo de Epstein. En total publicó o respondió más de 35 veces en menos de una semana, atacando a la administración de Trump por encubrir los archivos. Incluso llegó hasta utilizar su propio chatbot, Grok, que, ojo, acaba de cerrar un contrato por $200 millones con el gobierno de Trump. En ese momento, pues Musk dijo que los mensajes quizás habían sido demasiados, pero ahora volvió con todo. En una publicación llamó directamente a las acciones de Trump, un encubrimiento, y en otra aseguró que hay demasiada gente poderosa queriendo ocultar esa lista. Cuando Trump calificó el tema como la farsa de Epstein, pues Musk respondió burlándose. Increíble que Epstein se haya suicidado y que Maxwell esté en prisión por una farsa. Y claro, esto lo hizo en referencia a la cómplice de Epstein, ¿no? Maxwell. Y como bien sabemos, cumple condena de 20 años. Elon Musk también atacó directamente la forma en la cual Trump maneja estos temas. Publicó una lista: no admitir nada, negarlo todo, lanzar contraataques. Y agregó lo siguiente: pero esta vez no les va a funcionar. También aprovechó para replicar una imagen de las carpetas de Pam Bondi que entregó en febrero a los influencers MAGA en la Casa Blanca, rotuladas como archivos Epstein, fase 1, y utilizando su chatbot le preguntó: ¿eso significa que el gobierno ahora mismo conoce los nombres y edades de todos los que viajaron en el avión de Epstein? Y pues Grok respondió sí. El Departamento de Justicia tiene la lista detallada de pasajeros y registros de vuelo del jet de Epstein. Así que sí, señores, Elon nuevamente se lanza contra Trump. Y aunque no es santo de votación, debo admitir que es algo interesante, ¿no? Este ataque mutuo. Claramente a Trump no. Y como siempre, cuando alguien lo enfrenta, pues entra en pánico y lanza amenazas por todos lados, para simular fortaleza cuando en realidad está débil y desesperado. Tan desesperado que mandó a su vocera maga favorita, Caroline Leavitt, a lanzar una amenaza directa a Elon Musk. Trump quiere cancelar los contratos de inteligencia artificial de Elon Musk. Durante una rueda de prensa, Leavitt fue consultada sobre si Trump apoyaba que agencias federales contrataran a la empresa de inteligencia artificial de Elon Musk. Y su respuesta fue muy clara. No lo creo.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions for you. The first on AI. Does President Trump support federal agencies contracting with Elon Musk's AI company?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so he would want the DOJ to then cancel the contract with Roth.
I'll talk to him about it, yes.
Recordemos que hace unos días la empresa de inteligencia artificial de Trump firmó un contrato de $200 millones con el Departamento de Defensa, ¿no? Justo antes de que el chatbot de Musk haya elogiado a Hitler. No sería la primera vez que Trump utiliza el poder de la presidencia para vengarse, más que todo con alguien que tiene tantos conflictos personales, ¿no? Ya lo intentó con Stephen Colbert, ya lo intentó con CBS y Paramount. Aunque en este caso, si tu inteligencia artificial está alabando a Hitler, bueno, probablemente sí hay razones válidas para cortarle el contrato. Pero bueno, para Trump esa no es la razón. Él está furioso porque Musk lo ha dejado en evidencia, porque tenía mucha razón, porque Trump sí aparece en los archivos de Epstein. Y sí, pues Elon ha hecho muchas cosas mal. Quizás de las peores que hemos visto en nivel política en años. Pero en esto no se equivocó. Y como siempre, pues Trump va a seguir amenazando a cualquiera que lo exponga. Eso incluye a Stephen Colbert, tal como lo detalló la senadora Elizabeth Warren en este clip que veremos ahora.
Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in the history of America. And that's why I'm investigating these settlements. Look, settling under these kind of conditions where Donald Trump gets $16 million funneled into his future presidential library, and it turns out maybe another $20 million from the other party to this hoped-for merger, so that they can advance an $8 billion merger. Look, this looks a lot, smells a lot, sounds a lot like you're purchasing favors from the President of the United States. And that's a serious problem. That, if those facts are proven, that sounds a lot like bribery. And even with Donald Trump as president, bribery is still illegal in the United States of America.
You know, there's even been reporting, multiple reports, that the lawyers at Paramount have precisely this concern. In fact, there was letters sent by some state representatives in California about this very issue. But we've had reports that basically lawyers inside Paramount were worried that settling the deal would look like bribery. But now it appears, I mean, this is what's kind of mind-blowing. There's some sort of punitive cover in the settlement, right? You get sued, parties settle lawsuits, fine. But if there's like an extra $20 million of agreed about payments the president announced today, like that doesn't even seem to have a colorable legal rationale other than like you're giving the guy who can greenlight you money.
Right. Come on, Chris. $16 million didn't have a colorable way to explain why it was that this settlement was taking place, given that just across the board, everyone had said there's no merit to this lawsuit. But, there are two things that are going on here that are intertwined. One is the obvious corruption of saying, in effect, that presidential favors are potentially for sale. But the other is the extortion element of this. And that is saying, in effect, to someone like Stephen Colbert, to someone like the Paramount Group that wants to do this merger, Donald Trump can withhold favors. Donald Trump can bring down the power of the United States government to shut down your business transactions, your activities. Shoot, your very popular television program. It's about Donald Trump exercising control over our media and signaling to everybody out there, if you cross Donald Trump, there is potentially a huge price to pay, whether it's blocking a merger, suing ABC, whether it's suing the Wall Street Journal for not liking that the Wall Street Journal has reported more on the Jeffrey Epstein case. And that means that we're watching these two things work together. Corruption on the one hand, benefiting Donald Trump personally, but also this exercise of raw power over our media that undercuts a core part of our democracy.
Yeah, you sent a letter to, along with Senators Sanders and Wyden, to David Ellison, who's the CEO of Skydance, he's the son of Larry Ellison, who's obviously a huge Trump supporter. There was a meeting between Ellison and the chair of the FCC, Brendan Carr, just a few days before the announcement that they're abruptly canceling the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And I said this online, and I'm curious to get your feedback. I don't think it's wildly an overstatement to say that a test of a free society is whether a comedian can make fun of the country's leader on television and not face repercussions.
Right.
That's kind of what it means to live in a free country. And I don't think Donald Trump likes a country like that. And it certainly looks like he's going to do anything in his power to make it not be a country like that.
Well, I kind of would like to think that's the minimum bar, to having a strong democracy. But watch what Donald Trump is doing. It's the media, it's universities that he's going after, it's law firms, it's entities, organizations, and individuals who have the capacity to be independent and to push back. And whether they push back with comedy or they push back with lawsuits or they push back by just doing academic papers that show what a mess you have gotten our country into. All of those are important in a democracy. All of those entities that can push back. That's a part of what keeps us free and keeps our democracy strong.
El abuso de Trump en contra de la primera enmienda y de la libertad de expresión creo que es algo que no se tiene que discutir, ¿no? Especialmente para las personas que no están tan metidas en política y que tropiezan con las noticias más que buscarlas. La libertad de expresión, señores, es una bandera clave para millones de personas, seas de izquierda, seas de derecha, y sería una pena que los demócratas no la defiendan con todo. Más ahora que Trump quiere silenciar voces. Pues bueno, señores, mientras Donald Trump ha estado jugando a ser comandante en jefe, su gente más cercana literalmente estaba comprometiendo operaciones militares confidenciales y por mensajito. Ahora tenemos las pruebas claras. Pruebas que, recordemos, ellos negaron, mintieron y hasta intentaron encubrirlo. El escándalo conocido como Signalgate, un caso que, aunque ha estado medio enterrado por los medios, tiene implicaciones muy graves. Porque ya no estamos hablando de payasadas políticas, amigos, estamos hablando de poner en riesgo a soldados estadounidenses, de comprometer operaciones militares secretas, de un encubrimiento directo desde la Casa Blanca de Trump.
It has been months since the Pentagon Inspector General began its investigation into that Signal chat leak scandal. And so far, it is not good news for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. According to new reporting from the Washington Post, the Pentagon's independent watchdog has evidence that the signal messages from Secretary Hegseth in the group chat on attack plans contained information from a classified email with the label Secret No Foreign. Secret, meaning that the information was classified at a level which unauthorized disclosure could be expected to cause serious damage to national security. And no foreign, meaning it was not meant for anyone who is a foreign national. It is a revelation that plainly contradicts the Trump administration's insistence that no classified information was shared in that chat. Joining us now, NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kuby and president of Elevation Global Strategies and former executive editor of Defense One, Kevin Barron. All right, Courtney, give us a little bit more about this Washington Post reporting and what the Pentagon has been saying all along.
And Katie, this comes on the heels of a number of different media reports over the last several months that really challenged the idea that the information that Secretary Hegseth put in that Signal chat was anything but sensitive or classified. Remember, the first Signal chat went to senior members in the Trump administration, including the National Security Advisor at the time, Mike Waltz, other senior intelligence officials. But there were follow-on chats, including one that went to his wife, Secretary Hegseth's wife, his brother, who works at DOD in some capacity, and then friends, including his personal attorney. That's where this became a little bit muddier, Katie. Now, we had some reporting several months ago that, in fact, the information that Secretary Hegseth put on that chat on Signal came directly from the commanding general of U.S. Central Command, General Eric Kurilla. And he sent that information via a classified server. It's known as JWIX. It's a place where it's very classified and secret information for the Department of Defense and part of the intelligence community. That's an area where they can send information in a secure way. Information on that is expected to be classified at various levels, including, as we learned from the Washington Post, at the secret level, Katie.
Kevin, what is this doing to confidence in the Pentagon, to morale at the Pentagon? You have the Secretary of Defense claiming over and over again, no classified information. That's what the White House is saying. The Pentagon officially is saying that. But this reporting suggests otherwise. Also, the content always suggested otherwise.
Well, let's take the recent news first, which I don't think makes a difference to anyone other than the record. You know, we've heard since this started, a lot of folks in Washington thinking, this is it for Hegseth. He's clearly going to lose his job because of this violation of something so obvious. Well, clearly he has not. And from where I'm sitting and from the people I've talked to, the president he likes Hegseth a lot. He likes what he represents. He likes loyalists, and he doesn't care about the rules. You know, Trump is a guy who got elected and has broken the system, and that's what people like. And I think this is part of it. The way the White House has responded to this incident is not with shock and stunning, care for America's security. And frankly, neither has the Senate or the Senate GOP, which might be the only group of people that could do something about it. So for one, great we got this reporting. Great that it confirms what a lot of other reporters already may have known at some level, that this was secret. But I don't know what it changes differently. As for inside the Pentagon, I've heard for months that, of course, there are professional national security leaders in uniform and out in the Pentagon and adjacent to it and other agencies and defense companies and intelligence agencies who are horrified at what they're seeing at how the business of national security is being conducted at the Pentagon. And I think, this would only just confirm what people assumed all along.
Courtney, what about the fact that Hegseth, as you reported, was warned about these systems?
Yeah, he was warned specifically to be very careful with the information. Because remember, Katie, what we're talking about here is literally moments before manned U.S. military aircraft were taking off, in some cases off of an aircraft carrier that were headed towards airstrikes in Yemen. The Houthis have proven that they have the ability to shoot down U.S. aircraft, U.S. drones. It is a contested airspace. It is among the most dangerous missions for a U.S. military pilot to fly, to go into a contested airspace and conduct airstrikes. That's what we're talking about. Secretary Hegseth took information, specific information about those strikes, time that aircraft were taking off, time that they were supposed to be on target and dropping bombs. That is among the most sensitive, classified information that exists in the United States military because, again, it was an imminent, approved military operation that was just about to begin. And it's not just the aircraft that would potentially be in jeopardy. The men and women who were on those ships where they were launching the aircraft, everyone who would have been involved in that could have been put in jeopardy if that information got out. That's why it is so sensitive. And that's why our reporting several weeks or months ago was, in fact, that the secretary was warned to be very careful when he was discussing any of that information, just given the nature of the possibility that it could actually put men and women's lives at risk.
Kevin, I want to ask you about something else. This is the Pentagon participating in think tanks, participating in things like the Aspen Security Forum. Normally, this is something the Pentagon does get involved with. Can you tell me why normally and why suspending their participation in think tanks, et cetera, is concerning, in your opinion?
Yeah, so there's breaking news today. The Pentagon is directing a pause for all participation in these conferences. The Defense Conference Circuit is a vital part of how the Pentagon communicates its intentions and its plans, its future, its leaders to the public through the think tank world. Not just the think tanks, but this appears to also include things like the Army, Navy, Air Force. They have their own conferences that happen in Washington that are like, you know, if you think of the auto show on crack, it's like howitzers and helicopters and everything you could possibly think of. There are also places where the officers from those organizations come together to talk about future, just like any profession has the conference. The reason that they've suspended participation is because they don't like the think tanks that they're going to, and they're afraid of what they might be asked. So I used to run and create large conferences like this at Defense One. I've advised conferences like the Aspen Security Forum and the Halifax Forum, the Munich Security Conference. To pull the American leaders out of those is to leave a void where the community that supports them of academics and researchers and defense and industry they don't get to have a public forum to talk about what they're there to talk about. So it's in the Pentagon's mind, at least in Trump's Pentagon's mind, it's a way to figure out who are the guys that agree with us and don't, and let's not support the ones that don't. But in the external...
Señores, estamos hablando de un funcionario de altísimo nivel compartiendo en un grupo de Signal, como si fuese un chat familiar, detalles clasificados sobre ataques militares inminentes, incluyendo horarios de despegue, blancos estratégicos, hasta rutas de ataque. ¿Con quién compartió esta información? Pues con su esposa, con su hermano y hasta con su abogado personal. Es decir, personas sin ningún tipo de autorización de seguridad. Y ojo al detalle, ¿no? Porque el contenido venía de un servidor altamente clasificado, lo cual significa que no había forma de que Pete Hegseth no supiera que esa información era confidencial. Se le advirtió, se lo dijeron directamente. Aún así decidió compartirla. ¿Y qué hace la administración de Donald Trump frente a este problema? Lo negaron. Es más, insistieron en que no había nada clasificado, cuando los documentos filtrados estaban etiquetados como secreto. O sea, es decir, información secreta, que ni siquiera pueden compartirse con aliados extranjeros. Ahí es donde viene el corazón de este problema, porque no es solo lo que filtraron, sino cómo lo encubrieron. Literalmente mintieron al público, a la prensa, hasta al Congreso. Sé que algunos defensores de Trump me dirán, bueno, no pasó nada, ningún soldado resultó herido, así que no es para tanto. Pero, amigos, ese argumento es peligroso. ¿Acaso tenemos que esperar a que haya bajas para tomar en serio una violación de seguridad nacional? Porque esto no fue un error técnico, no fue una filtración accidental, fue una decisión consciente. Puso los intereses personales y las lealtades políticas por encima de la seguridad nacional. Y si eso no es un acto de irresponsabilidad y negligencia de alguien que está en esa posición de poder, entonces, ¿qué lo es? Sé que otros podrán decir que es una cacería de brujas, ¿no? Como lo dice Trump, pero los hechos son los hechos. La evidencia no tiene un oponente político, viene de un informe del Inspector General del Pentágono y del Washington Post. Fuentes directas dentro del propio Departamento de Defensa. Pues bueno, señores, ahora quiero saber qué opinan ustedes. ¿Creen que Pete Hegseth tendría que ser procesado por esta filtración? ¿Será que Trump debería de rendir cuentas por encubrir a sus aliados? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, dale like, compártelo con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.